Tissue mineral analysis, HTMA is often what it's called. So one question I get is, why should I run a hair test versus a urine test or a blood test? So what we're testing with this test is for minerals and toxic metals. So it's always testing like an organic mineral thing, right? It's not a chemical test. It's not a vitamin test. It's not a hormone test. It's testing for minerals, beneficial minerals, and toxic minerals as well. So you need your minerals to do tons of stuff in your body, make you have nice skin. I was reading that there's one mineral, if you're deficient, can cause early gray hair, making insulin, basically everything, relaxing your muscles, toning up your heart so it works properly, handling stress. And there's lots of things that can deplete healthy, good minerals. Poor diet, certainly food processing, poor soil quality that we have nowadays, poor digestion, which I mentioned earlier is the number one complaint of this group. If you're not digesting well, you're not going to get all the minerals from your food. So let's say you're trying to eat well, but frankly, nobody eats perfectly. Sometimes you might have alcohol. Sometimes you might have gluten-free crackers or soda. Even if you do eat really well, even organic food isn't as healthful as it once was. And as you get older, after you get over 40, over 50, you produce less stomach acid. So you just don't break down food as well. So you can definitely complement with multivitamin, take a bitters tincture, take stomach acid supplement. Those are all options to help your absorption. But it's nice to know what you're actually dealing with. And this test is the most affordable test that we offer, which is awesome. And you get to come talk to us about your tests. So anyway, I started a little too deep too quickly. So why is hair good to test versus blood? Well, so as your hair is growing, before it kind of comes out of your head and becomes this tissue, it is being formed in your hair follicle. And as it's being formed, it's being exposed to blood and lymph that are circulating around. So it's basically picking up everything that's floating around, whether that's excess of minerals, maybe you're taking too much of something, or you have some kind of imbalance pushing out some minerals, or you've been exposed to arsenic or mercury, and that's getting pushed and it's going to show in your hair. So it can show some acute exposure from the last few months, because you're going to measure like the inch and a half of your root hair. And it can measure some long-term exposure too. So technically the test measures the last few months because your hair just grew recently. But I've also seen that people have been exposed to something a very long time ago and it's still in their system. It's being pushed out. So when we're encountering something toxic like arsenic, mercury, our body doesn't want it in the blood. It's causing a lot of problems. So it pushes it to the bone and to the hair, for example. So you can't really test your bone, but you can test your hair. So even if you've been exposed to like uranium a long time ago, it's still going to show up in your hair. Now, is everything going to show up like exactly? Some of my clients will say, oh, well, I know I was exposed to something 10 years ago. We can't say for sure it's going to show up in your test. Maybe your body's processed it. We just can only just see what the hair tells us. But with the blood, it's no better. The blood is actually worse because, again, the body's trying to push anything dangerous out of the blood. So often you can't see things that are occurring in there. And also in the blood, let me see here. There's some other things like symptoms of iron deficiency can be present long before low iron levels are detected in the blood. So it's pretty interesting. Calcium loss can be very advanced. So advanced you have severe osteoporosis, and it won't be picked up on a blood test. 30 to 40 days following acute exposure to lead, serum levels may be undetectable. This is due to the body removing the lead from the blood as a protective measure, depositing it into the liver, bones, teeth, and hair. So I think that's pretty convincing. There is also urinary testing, which I don't know I didn't study up on that before this call. Urine is urine is measuring waste products. So usually if you do a urine test, you need to use an agent, like a chelating agent, they call it, to help push waste out. Because if your body isn't detoxing well, it's not going to be pushing it out the urine. So you usually need some kind of agent to push it out of the urine. Beyond that, I don't totally know the accuracy. I know it's not as affordable as a hair test. So that's why we do the hair test. We feel pretty good about it. This new company we just switched to only does hair testing. They do 50,000 tests a year. They really know their stuff. I read up on their laboratory procedures, but it was incredibly boring. It was so boring. I couldn't keep up with it. But they do tons of quality control and all this stuff. So, a little bit about, well, let me tell you what you use it for, and then I'll show you how to use it. You can use it for all sorts of things. You know, it could be vague things like just being tired, not being able to sleep well, being anxious, feel like you're aging too quickly, you can't get pregnant, you're getting maybe more teeth cavities, like my son. Maybe I should test him on this one. So lots of things. I mean, micronutrients, the vitamins and minerals we need every day are so critical. People might ask me, they don't ask that often, but like, what's your dietary theory? And I think my biggest thing is like, you need to get your micronutrients. It's so important. So whether you get them from lots of vegetables or more meats or whatever, in every culture and every type of diet, we need to be getting these beneficial minerals. So if a test like this can tell you, oh, you're low in calcium, or you're low in magnesium, or you're low in zinc, and you can fix, replete that with supplementation and foods that you know are high in those things, then you can retest in a few months and see how you did. So again, it's a pretty affordable test, so not much harm in that. What else do I want to say here? So there's lots of reasons you could run it. Also just kind of unexplained, right? You're just like, oh, I don't know what's going on with me, or I'm worried about toxins. I'm worried about my well water. You probably should be worried about your well water. We're surrounded by toxins. It's pretty scary. And they're in a lot of things we don't even think about, in our makeup, in our paint, that kind of a thing. I was reading some sources here that I didn't even know about. Hair dyes can contain lead. Hydrogenated oils contain nickel. Cookware contain copper and aluminum. Cigarette smoke can contain cadmium. And dental fillings contain mercury and cadmium. Those are just a few of the sources. So this company we're working with now, you get not only results, but you get this full report, which is a little confusing. And that's why we do a consult with you, to help you understand it. It can be a little scary if you see something out of range. So having someone to talk through it with is important. So it's talking to you about beneficial minerals, toxic minerals, and then ratios. Like, let me give you a couple examples here. Okay. Sorry, guys. I don't see the thing I wanted to read. Well, let me Okay, so here, I thought these little things were interesting. So if you, for example, have a high sodium to potassium ratio, that can indicate stress. It can indicate an early stage of stress known as the alarm stage, where the hormones are initiating an alarm reaction and will produce an increase in sodium retention relative to potassium. So not only is this telling you about some minerals, but it's telling you what your adrenals might be doing. Pretty interesting, right? Here's another ratio, zinc and copper. So many people nowadays are low in zinc and high in copper just because of the certain kind of foods we eat in our diet these days. However, this is an example of low copper, which can affect metabolism. Copper is needed for collagen synthesis for your skin. And if this continues, you can have bleeding gums, osteoporosis, premature graying hair. So it's pretty interesting stuff. And it could definitely give you some explanations to some things you've been wondering about. Okay. And one other cool thing about this test, I don't really know how they came up with this. I think it's just this ways they see certain patterns and they can come up with this, which is they tell you your metabolic type. So metabolic types means like, do you have a fast metabolism? Do you have a slow metabolism? We all are a type, right? Like I think I'm a fast metabolism. I don't gain weight easily. I mean, I'm not like super skinny or anything, but I can eat and I won't really gain that much weight. And I'm kind of like high strung, but I can also crash. So I'm probably the fast metabolism type. And that can, show certain patterns in my hair tissue. And you might be a fast type, or you might be a slow type, or some other type. And it'll kind of tell you that, what things to watch out for if that's your type, some things that could be showing up for you and how to correct it. Certain foods to eat. I thought this was pretty interesting. They were encouraging the fast metabolism type to eat like proteins high in like, what do they call it? Purines. Things like liver, kidney, heart, meat, sardines, tuna, clam, crab, lobster, and oysters. They want this to be 33% of your diet, which is a lot. So it's pretty interesting. But even if you're not going to eat all your calories, 33% from those foods, if you do eat meat, and you can increase some of these, seafoods, organ meats, or take organ pills. I actually just ordered some organ pills that could really help balance you out. So pretty interesting advice. I think they go on to give some supplement recommendations. And what I like is like they only recommended 4 things on this person's example report. They didn't recommend like 25 things. So 4 things. And it's pretty cool. So I wasn't initially super interested in using this company's stuff, but I'm kind of getting more interested because I think they've been doing this a long time and they have experience in this kind of a thing. Okay, so I'll show you next how to do it. I had some scissors, but I think I've lost them. So don't make my mistake. See this little short hair I have right here? This is because the first time I ran a test, I cut it from my hairline. Don't cut it from your hairline. Cut it from up around here in the middle of your hair, because no one will see that if it grows out. So you have to have clean hair without any gel or hairspray applied on it. And you write down what shampoo you use so they know. You cut the hair. And this is all the hair I cut the other day. It's kind of a lot to me because I don't have a lot of hair. But you need about a tablespoon of hair. So you cut it off and then you pull it all out, and then you cut about the 1.5 inches close to the scalp. Now, if you color your hair, you don't want any color in that 1.5 inches. So wait till your hair grows out. And then you put it on this little scale and it will measure. You put the hair here, and when you have enough hair, it'll do, it'll even out or whatever. So then you just put it in a little envelope and send it off to the lab. We give you a form and tell you how to fill the form out. We have you usually pay the lab directly, but if we'll do this special group thing on our program, we might do it differently. But anyway, it's super easy. You can do this from any country because it doesn't require any ice. It doesn't require anything. The only thing is you have to, if you live in New York, you have to mark it was not collected in New York because New York is very bossy about how labs are run. I think that's about it. So I'm really excited to be doing this test more. I think it's a good entry point into testing because it's the most affordable test. It's probably not the only test you need if you have a complicated case like 99% of everyone who talks to me. You might also want to test your full thyroid panel, your stool test, your hormone test. But I think it's like a good way to kind of see the testing is valuable. I know that also many people I talk to, they have never paid for this kind of thing before. It's possible your insurance might pay for this, but I just always say don't bank on it. And you have to kind of train yourself that if this is something you value, you have to put your money behind something you value, right? If you're learning and learning and learning about functional medicine online and you love it, but you never run a test, you're not really getting the value. So even if it means you have to save up, there's a point, I think, where you put your money where your mouth is and you take that step forward to say, yes, I'm choosing this. And I've also talked to some people lately who are like, well, I've already seen a naturopath, or I've already seen this. Not everyone works the same. I've seen people giving out supplements and they haven't done any testing. And they say, well, I already did that. It didn't work. Well, you didn't really do it properly. So I think that you can imagine from what the test I just described, what a difference it could make, right? If you're just guessing you're low in this or that, rather than you actually see it, you're just guessing that your feelings might be a problem. Do you actually see that your feelings are a problem from a test or not? When you see that, you might really start hustling to get some dental care. And I really would like to be a part of that conversation because I see often that people get dental care done incorrectly and it does more damage. So, okay, let me see if any questions. I don't see any questions on the Facebook right now. I'll give another minute to do it. But otherwise, just leave them later. You can also, I'll put my email here if you have a question you want to ask me a little bit more privately. I'm going to slow down a bit on taking private consults soon because we'll be pretty busy running this group program, which I hope you participate in. But at the moment, we can squeeze in a few more. So thanks everyone for watching.